Be me, 29, marketing coordinator at a tech startup in Seattle. I've always been careful about protection, tracked my cycle religiously, always kept condoms in my nightstand. My mom gave up her teaching career when she had kids and spent my entire childhood talking about what could have been while folding laundry and driving us to soccer practice. I swore I'd never end up like that. Then one Friday night changed everything. Jake and I had been at his friend's rooftop party. We'd both been drinking, not sloppy drunk, just that warm, loose feeling where everything seems like a good idea. We got back to his place and didn't even make it to the bedroom. Things escalated on the couch, and neither of us stopped to grab a condom. In the moment, it felt spontaneous and passionate and right. 3 weeks later, my period didn't come. I took the test in the bathroom at work, sitting on the toilet in the furthest stall for 20 minutes, just staring at those 2 pink lines. I wasn't ready for this. I'd just gotten promoted to senior coordinator. I had a girls' trip to Costa Rica booked. I still went to music festivals and posted Instagram stories from brewery patios at 2 p.m. on Sundays. When I told Jake that night, he smiled. Actually smiled. "Holy shit," he said, pulling me into a hug. "We're gonna be parents." I stood there rigid in his arms, feeling like I was drowning while he celebrated on the shore. Over the next few days, Jake started talking about baby names and looking at cribs online. Meanwhile, I was in bed scrolling through r/regretful parents at 3 a.m., reading stories that made my stomach hurt. I sent screenshots to my friend group chat, articles titled "Why Motherhood is a Scam" and "The Unpaid Labor Women Are Expected to Perform." This is what happens when you're not careful, I told myself. You end up trapped. My mom came over when I was 8 weeks along. I told her how scared I was, how this wasn't the plan. She squeezed my hand with this exhausted knowing in her eyes. "Oh, honey," she said, "your life is about to change." She meant it as solidarity, but all I heard was a warning. I decided to keep the pregnancy, partially because Jake was so supportive it felt wrong to not match his energy, partially because I was afraid of what my feminist friends would think if I didn't, partially because some tiny part of me thought maybe I could do this differently than my mom did. But there was this seed planted deep. He did this to me. Labor was 22 hours. Emergency C-section. When they finally pulled the twins out, Rachel and Carter, the nurses placed them on my chest and everyone waited for that magical bonding moment they show in movies. I felt nothing, just exhausted and sore and resentful that my body had been turned inside out. Jake cried. He actually cried holding them. I remember thinking, of course you're emotional. You didn't just get sliced open. Breastfeeding was a nightmare. Rachel wouldn't latch right, and Carter fed constantly, and my nipples cracked and bled. The lactation consultant at the hospital kept saying breast is best with this judgmental smile. I quit after 6 weeks and switched to formula. Jake supported it, which somehow made me more annoyed. Like he got to be the understanding partner while I was the one who gave up. When I went back to work at 12 weeks, I felt free for the first time since those 2 pink lines. The office was clean and quiet, and nobody needed anything from my body. Home was chaos, crying in diapers and this constant low-level panic that I was doing everything wrong. Jake took his paternity leave and basically became their primary caregiver. He was good at it too, which pissed me off. He didn't seem stressed or resentful. He'd send me videos during the day, Carter giggling at peekaboo, Rachel grabbing his finger, and I'd feel this weird combination of guilt and annoyance. That's when I started using it. "You wanted this," I'd say, whenever they were crying and I was tired. "You deal with it." At first, Jake laughed, thinking I was joking, but I kept saying it. When they needed a diaper change, when they woke up at 2 a.m., when daycare called about a fever. You were so excited about being a dad. So be one. One night, Carter was screaming, teething, or gas or whatever, and I'd had maybe 3 hours of sleep total. Jake was in the nursery trying to calm him down and asked if I could take over so he could make a bottle. Are you serious right now? I snapped. You came inside me, you wanted to finish without a condom. This is your responsibility. He just stared at me, holding our screaming son. We both made that choice. Yeah, well, I'm the one who got pregnant. I'm the one who got cut open. So you get to deal with the consequences. I walked out and put my AirPods in. He started doing more and more. Morning routines, daycare drop-off, bath time, bedtime stories. I focused on work, my career, my identity beyond just being someone's mother. The twins would cry when I picked them up, that frustrated, overstimulated cry, and I'd immediately hand them to Jake. They like you better anyway, I'd say, even though they were literally 6 months old and didn't like anyone better. They just wanted whoever was consistently there, which wasn't me. I joined online mom groups, but gravitated toward the ones that validated my feelings. Posts about refusing the mental load, about not being the default parent, about maintaining your identity. I screenshotted these constantly. One night, Jake asked if I could handle bedtime because he had a work deadline. I was on the couch, scrolling TikTok. I'm decompressing. I just need an hour. I sent him a screenshot from one of my mom groups. Women are expected to sacrifice everything while men get praised for basic parenting. Don't let them trap you in the second shift. This is literally about you, I said. Don't try to guilt me into performing femininity just because I gave birth. He stood there for a moment, then went to put the twins to bed himself. I went back to my phone. My child-free friends told me I was doing amazing, that it was revolutionary to refuse traditional motherhood. You're breaking the cycle, my friend Jess said over brunch while I scrolled through pictures Jake had sent of the twins at the park. I wasn't there. I'd told him I needed me time. Jake's friends started calling him Mr. Mom as a joke. I could tell it bothered him, but I told myself he was getting a taste of what women deal with, being reduced to your parenting role. The daycare teachers always greeted Jake by name, but called me Carter and Rachel's mom. My Amazon order history was work clothes and concert tickets. Jake's was kids' books and art supplies. When the twins were 6 months old, my mom visited and watched me hand crying Rachel to Jake before walking to the kitchen to pour wine. She followed me. Emma, I know you don't want to be like me, but those babies need their mother. They have a parent. Gender doesn't matter. But you barely hold them. You don't. Mom, I'm not having this conversation. You gave up your whole life for us and you were miserable. I'm not doing that. She looked so sad. She didn't bring it up again. On Instagram, I posted aesthetic shots from coffee shops with captions like, "Reminder that you're still you after kids, Nanchu, not just a mom." The likes felt like validation. The comments from other women, "Yes, queen." Meanwhile, the fridge at home filled with drawings. All of them said, "I love Daddy," or had pictures of the 3 of them. In one, I was a tiny stick figure in the corner. I told myself it was fine. I wasn't defined by motherhood anyway. It started small. Carter skinned his knee at the park when he was 3. He was running toward me when he tripped, but when he got up crying, he ran past me to Jake. I told myself it was because Jake was closer. Then Rachel had a nightmare and screamed for Daddy. I went to her room first. I was literally right there, but she pushed me away. No! I want Daddy. I stood in the hallway while Jake comforted her, feeling like an idiot. When he came out 15 minutes later, I was annoyed. She literally pushed me away, like I'm a stranger. You didn't come to the last 3 bedtimes, Jake said quietly. She doesn't know your routine. I don't have a routine. That's the point. By the time they turned 4, it was constant. Where's Daddy? When is Daddy coming home? Can Daddy take me? I was a ghost in my own house. We went to Jake's parents' house for Sunday dinner, and both kids ran straight past me to their grandparents, then asked where Daddy was. He was still parking the car. Jake's mom. Susan said, "They sure love their daddy." With this particular tone, I couldn't quite read. The worst moment came when my own mother was visiting. She asked Rachel what she wanted to be when she grew up. A mum like Daddy? Everyone froze. My mum tried to correct her. You mean a mum like Mommy? Rachel shook her head. No, like Daddy. He makes good pancakes and reads to me and plays games. Mummy's always busy. I laughed it off, but my mum gave me the look. The same disappointed look from when I'd told her I wasn't going to be a stay-at-home mom. I started noticing patterns. I was always the bad guy, the one saying, "No, we can't do that right now," or "Hurry up, Mommy has a meeting," or sighing when they were too loud. Jake was fun dad, patient dad, present dad. When Carter wanted to show me a drawing, I'd barely glance up from my phone. "That's nice, buddy. Go show Daddy." When Rachel asked me to play dolls, I'd say I was tired. Maybe later. Later never came. At preschool, Carter drew a Mother's Day picture of Jake. The teacher gently suggested he draw Mommy. He added me in the corner, much smaller. At drop-off, Rachel clung to Jake and barely waved at me. Once she didn't even say goodbye. Another mom at pickup asked if I was the nanny because she'd only ever seen Jake. Jake's mom posted on Facebook a photo of Jake at the park with both twins on the swings, all 3 laughing. The caption, "Best dad ever." These kids are so blessed. 43 likes. I wasn't in the photo. I'd stayed home to catch up on emails. I started checking Jake's Instagram obsessively. Every post was him and the kids, bike riding lessons, baking cookies, reading before bed. The comments were always the same. Amazing father. Those kids are so lucky. Dad of the year. My friends were posting their kid-free brunches and promotion announcements. I felt stuck between 2 worlds. Not quite the involved mom, not quite the child-free career woman I'd wanted to be. I told myself I wasn't jealous. I wasn't bothered. There were just kids being kids. But late at night, I'd hear Jake reading bedtime stories through the wall, doing funny voices, making them giggle, and I'd feel something sharp in my chest. They're my kids, I thought. I carried them. Why don't they want me? I never asked myself the obvious answer. Jake's parents flew in for the twins' 4th birthday party. Jake had planned everything because I'd had a big presentation at work. Honestly, I also just didn't want to deal with Pinterest-perfect birthday bullshit. I showed up an hour late. The apartment was decorated beautifully. Dinosaur theme, the expensive decorations Jake must have spent hours setting up. There was a professional-looking cake with "Roar into 4" written in perfect icing. Both kids wore matching dino outfits. Everyone was taking pictures. I walked in and Carter barely glanced at me. "Daddy! Daddy, can we open presents now?" I stood there with a forced smile while Jake played MC. He was so good at this. Patient when Rachel took forever with each present, making dumb dad jokes that made everyone laugh, wiping cake off Carter's face. I felt like an audience member at my own kid's birthday party. On my 3rd glass of wine, I went to the kitchen. That's when I heard Jake's parents talking in the hallway. "He's such a natural," Susan said. "Those kids are obsessed with him." "Well, he's basically doing it alone," Tom replied. "I don't want to be judgmental, but she's barely around. I know she works, but so does Jake. And when she is here, she seems checked out. Maybe some women just aren't maternal. That's okay. It's not okay if she's making Jake do everything, then resenting him for it." I slammed my wine glass down. They heard it. Awkward silence. Susan tried to smooth it over, but I was already humiliated and furious. After everyone left and the kids were in bed, I exploded. Your parents are judgmental assholes. Jake was loading the dishwasher, looking exhausted. They're just observing reality, Em. Oh, so I'm a bad mother? Is that what you're saying? I'm saying you're not really here. You're physically here sometimes, but you're not present. Because I work, Jake. Because I refuse to be reduced to a milk machine and a maid. Because I'm not going to perform traditional femininity just because I gave birth. This isn't about feminism. His voice was hotter now. This is about our kids asking why mommy doesn't want to play with them. Oh, screw you. You wanted this. I told you I wasn't ready and you were so excited, and now you get to be the hero dad while I'm the villain. Are you seriously still blaming me for something that happened 4 years ago? We both didn't use a condom. We both chose to keep them. You don't understand what it's like. You don't have people judging every choice. You get praise for the bare minimum while I get criticized for having a career. Jake stopped loading the dishwasher, turned to face me. The bare minimum? I do everything. I've been doing everything for 4 years. And you know what? I'm tired of being resented for stepping up when you checked out. I'd never heard him like this. I started crying, angry, frustrated tears. You turned them against me. You made yourself the good parent so you could... Daddy? We both froze. Rachel stood in the hallway, crying. Carter appeared behind her, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Why's Mommy yelling? Carter asked. Jake went to them immediately, kneeling down. It's okay, buddy. Mommy and Daddy just had a disagreement. We're okay. Carter looked at me, then back at Jake. But Mommy's being mean to you, my own son, calling me mean. Jake scooped them both up and carried them back to their room. He didn't look at me. Through the door, I heard him. Mommy loves you guys very much. She's just having a hard time right now. It's not your fault. Even in the middle of our worst fight, he was protecting me to them. Somehow, that made me feel worse. Jake suggested couples therapy. I agreed, thinking the therapist would validate me. Tell him I was fighting patriarchal expectations. The therapist was a woman in her 50s named Dr. Chen. I started explaining my position, emotional labor, the second shift, refusing traditional gender roles. She listened. Then she said, very gently, Emma, it sounds like you've been using feminist theory as a shield against engaging with your children. I tried to explain further, but she cut me off. Your partner is doing the second shift. He's doing the first shift too. What are you doing? Jake sat there, not vindicated, just sad. Dr. Chen continued, children bond with consistency and presence. Rejecting traditional motherhood doesn't mean rejecting your children. Your husband hasn't forced you into gender roles. You've forced him into solo parenting. I wanted to argue, but my throat felt tight. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. I tried to get more involved after that. Offered to do bedtime. Rachel looked confused. But Daddy does bedtime. I insisted. Read her the story, but she corrected my character voices. That's not how Daddy does it. When I tried to cuddle her, she was stiff. When is Daddy coming to say goodnight? It was like she couldn't relax until he showed up, like I was just in the way. I took Carter to the park the next weekend. He spent the whole time asking when Daddy was coming home. Another kid fell and ran crying to his mom. Carter just brushed himself off and kept playing. He'd learned not to come to me. That stung more than I wanted to admit. One night I was scrolling Instagram and saw a post from Susan, video of Jake and the twins at the aquarium, all three watching jellyfish. Jake explaining something while both kids held his hands. Caption, beautiful day with my son and the best grandkids. These 126 likes. Comments full of "what a wonderful father" and "dad of the year." I wasn't there. I'd had work emails. On a Saturday, I realized I wasn't in any family photos. Not because Jake excluded me, because I was never there. Or when I was on my phone. I did something I'm not proud of. Looked at Jake's phone while he was in the shower. His search history. How to explain to kids why mom is distant. Single dad support groups. Co-parenting while living together. Single dad. We were married and he was Googling single dad resources. My hands were shaking. How dare he frame it like that? Like he was doing this alone? I was there. I lived in the same house. Just because I wasn't performing traditional motherhood didn't mean I was absent. I checked my camera roll, work stuff, brunch with friends, concert selfies. The last picture of the twins was from 3 months ago. Jake's camera roll had hundreds. First day of preschool, playground adventures, cooking together, random Tuesday afternoons. That night, I walked into the living room. Jake was on the couch with both kids, reading. They were tucked under his arms. There was space for me. I stepped closer. Carter glanced up and shifted closer to Jake. My own son moved away from me. I backed out before they noticed, my chest tight. Later that week, Jake showed me something on his phone, a private Instagram account, just for the twins. Thousands of photos and videos documenting every milestone, every moment. I wanted them to know they were loved, he said quietly. Even if they don't remember these years, they'll have proof. The unspoken part hung there, proof that at least one parent was there. This is your fault, I said, my voice sharper than I meant. You turned them against me. You made yourself the hero so I'd look like the villain. Jake just looked tired. Emma, I just showed up. That's all I did. Because you wanted them. You were so excited about being a dad, and now you get to reap the benefits while you what? Chose not to be involved? That was your choice. It wasn't a choice. It was self-preservation. I'm not going to be trapped like my mother was. No one was trapping you. I would have split everything equally, but you can't split zero effort. That hit something raw. They don't even want me, I said, quieter now. They don't know you, he replied, not angry, just factual. We sat in silence for a minute. Then something clicked. A solution, a way to fix this. I'm going to teach them, I said, about feminism, about gender equality. Really teach them, properly. They need to understand why I made the choices I made. They're old enough to start learning. Jake frowned. Therefore. Exactly. That's when you shape their worldview. I'll teach them about patriarchy, about women's unpaid labor, about refusing traditional roles. They'll understand, and then they'll respect me for it. You think teaching them theory is the same as spending time with them? It is spending time with them. Quality time, educational time. I was warming up to this idea. Once they understand feminism, they'll see I was right all along. They'll appreciate that I didn't just perform motherhood like everyone expected. They'll love me for who I am, not what I do for them. Jake looked at me like I was speaking another language. Maybe they'll even love me more than you, I added. Once they're educated, once they understand. He shook his head slowly. That's not how kids work, Emma. But I was already planning it. I'd get them books about strong women, start teaching them young, they'd see, they'd finally see. And maybe then I wouldn't feel so invisible in my own house.